and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, everyone, and welcome again to a short update with me today. It's going to be another edition of a more expanded, broader galactic update, which we haven't done in a while. So I'm going back to the basics, and I want to share some of the updates towards the end, but I just want to have like an overview of why are we here and how are now we writing our journeys anew. What's really happening at this time as the synthesis. So as you know, so much was talked about this whole project of the Light family and the initiative of the Light family that sent out many of its extensions as those who work for the Light. And I call these beings volunteer souls, as you know. And we've all carried a deep seed of knowing. And yet, even though we have that seed and our primordial divine remembrance state is awakened now, you know, within the majority of those who are here for this purpose specifically, it's awakened. The seed is not just awakened, it's starting to sprout. It's really germinating at this time. But what's happening sometimes is that in many cases we will often still forget. And as you know, we even forget for a reason because we have to play a little human for a while to really get down to the basics of what's happening on this planet and just observing, you know. Observing as pioneers, as frontiers, as those who are taking the lead. And we often misinterpret the word of being guides and pioneers or advocates of the light or guardians, you know, of Earth from the many different realms altogether, because this is a multidimensional path, which means that we have simultaneously many aspects of ourselves awake. So the reason when we feel we're asleep or we forget for a while what's the bigger purpose here, what's our bigger mission, is because in many times we are almost like compartmentalized. We're feeling into the many aspects. We're not always all just here. You know, I have these moments when I'm outside and I haven't slept a while because it's been a really intense night of light activations and all that and whatnot. And then I just doze off, but it's not the same as sleeping. I'm just going somewhere and I'm having these dialogues and there's these conversations happening and we'll wake up the moment I wake up there, middle of the day, perhaps somewhere outside in nature, just, I don't know what happened. I'm like literally taken out of this body and I'm not always aware for the first few seconds, or I get scared. I'm like, you know, something like that. It's very simple. But these things happen because simultaneously we're in parallel having so much dialogue now, so much communication on all these different levels. But what occurred for me recently is because I finally finished this huge compile of books from Barbara and Clow. I have so many books. I have my own personal library, but I don't read as much. So it was a period in my life when I was just feeling like, oh, I need to get these just here and there, a few books. You know, it's like my own personal spirit library, although my library is as well as your library. The biggest library is in our DNA, okay? But somehow these books that I was guided to through spirit always had a message which then super extended within my own message. So recently, I want to share with you, I went back retro. I go retrograde. These books from the old times, they just really resonate with me at this time. And why? I'm going to share with you what Spirit has recently shared with me as an initiative of light. So this is a very famous book that everyone probably knows in the spiritual community. It's not the famous book. It's called Bringers of the Dawn. And you might wonder why my name sounds kind of similar as Polonarea Dawn. Well, there are no coincidences. This was actually after I had this book like years after, not when I first encountered the material. But my first encounter with this book was actually with the audio, with a audiobook version that was available on YouTube. I don't know if it still is. Lots of later also Barbara's channelings, you know. Funny how these women are all called Barbara, right? Coincidence? I don't think so. So lots of other channelings, but they're actually being copyrighted. And she's always stressing now this is not to be shared publicly. It's almost like if I had a content and it's just meant for a private group of the initiative ones, then someone just shares it. It's not really sovereign. It's not really aligned. So I really I think that's important for us to know, you know, and to get the materials, to respect the people who've done the work, done the input, done the investment. And sometimes maybe that's the reason why I was guided to have certain books, to just, you know, to cherish the people who donate their work as much as I do when I do my own work of spirit and serving the laws of creation, the laws of divine love. So anyway, I was going back retro. I love retro. I love these books from the 80s and early 90s. And somehow for the past few weeks, I'm going to say this whole year since it began, everything was really intense, and I'm sure you felt it. There was almost like this feeling of, okay, all this is happening, and this is happening, and that's changing. And I've shared with you the story here, what's happening here in our nature area, and how it's drastically changing. And sometimes we all have that sentence, okay, then why are we still here if nothing's changing? If things aren't progressing, then why are we here? And from a bigger perspective, I was also tuning into the people who want to run away, or people who want the event to happen and change everything all at once or all of a sudden. And from a compassionate state, somehow I really do understand that. And I do understand these people, because sometimes living on earth as a deeply empathic being, as a being who is so deeply connected to other realms, all simultaneously held together in this one being. It's like just one container of our bodies. It's kind of challenging, you know, and we all feel that. And we all have moments when our highs are very high. So when something doesn't feel as high, we experience it as a low. And it's normal to have these fluctuations occur in our lives. But what happens is it's not so drastic. It's not so bad. It's not even necessarily negative. What's happening at that time is because our highs are so high when we're getting activated, when we're bringing that to the aspect of what we call the low or the valley or the downward period of the spiral, it can feel so intense because our highs were just so high and there's no other way of putting it. So what's occurring is we're going through these intense energetic rewrites and transfers that are taking us on this, how to integrate the love on all the levels, the highs, the lows, and I'm recently experiencing this myself. So when this question again arises, but what am I here? Why am I still here? You know, I feel like I don't belong to this part the way others do. I don't have a life like a physical life the way others do, and in a way that, you know, the joy that humans, I don't know, they just cultivated a certain way that star beings who are here with a specific mission of anchoring this site are here for. And sometimes we have moments of this doubt. So I want to read you this paragraph today from this book to answer some of these questions in the most simplistic matter of why we're truly here. And why is this necessary? Because I know many people have thought, well, the light is coming here anyway. It's, you know, why do I have to be here? What's my agenda here? You know, why people say, oh, it's enough just to be here. Some people won't comply with that. They always want to do more. They want to do extra. And sometimes we have to understand that doing extra or doing more or constantly doing something is not necessarily the primary reason why we are here. And I'm talking about those who truly are members of the family of light, who are bringers of the dawn in their own way. And this means beings who are mainly here operating as antennas. We all have different assignments. There's a broad spectrum of what people call the lightwork community. But when I talk about bringers of the dawn specifically, I relate to a very similar description that's handed down here and through this book. And it's about how our bodies, through this transfusion of what I call the light quotient or the life force, mastery, this is basically the main thing we're here for and what we're doing and how it is enough. And how in this book they also say if they would give us one occupation, it would be to be of inspiration. And I remember years back, if people look at my posts or pictures or whatever, and they said, you are such an inspiration or you're so inspiring to me, I felt like I don't want to be that. I don't want to inspire. I want to show the way towards mastery. It felt like it's not enough. I wanted to do more. I wanted people to attain their highest level. But when they shared about this, it kind of opens up a different perspective of, you know, when you inspire through your own living mastery, through your own attainment, through whatever it is enough. You know, we always want to have, well, we want more. We want to give more. We want people to devote more to this highest path. And for me, as you know, I've always been a devotee of the highest. You know, as an illumined being, nothing on this planet was ever enough for me. It was this, not like perfectionism that most people would talk about, of being a perfectionist, But it was this remembrance of how, recently I said this to my mother because we had a conversation of what's the most challenging aspect here on the planet. And I said, for me, the most challenging aspect is because on Earth, this is this complete free will zone. And it's not like in the spirit realm where everything is structured. Everything is in this perfect order. Like if you vibrationally don't fit somewhere, even if it's just somewhere in a library, you're not going to get that book or that material. It's all vibrationally evened out, or it's like it's all working through that law of vibrational attunement. However, on Earth, it's not like that. There is no such rule that says this beautiful, pristine place is only of people who have this kind of frequency in their encodement and they carry in their bodies. And there is no such thing as this exclusion that people with the lowest frequency are not allowed there. And this is what's happening here because I've witnessed so many sacred spots, so many beautiful spots of intense spirit presence that are getting destroyed, and environments and habitats being destroyed because of this free will zone or free will law. So for me, the most challenging aspect of being here on Earth is not that there's a diversity of different experiences that souls are kind of like cultivating for themselves or choosing and co-creating. It's the fact that we coexist with all these aspects, and sometimes they feel like they're interfering with what we feel is sacred and what we hold in the highest reverence. So that for me was always most challenging, because whenever I go, I bring only purity, a devotion, this beautiful, when you actually commit to that highest and bring that light there, and then someone comes to that space and just totally messes it up, and people are doing all these things and you go like, oh my gosh, again. And that was always the most irritating factor in my life, in my personal life. And when these moments occur, I went into this, the low. And the low wasn't really coming from myself. It was coming from the environment. But what we tend to do, those of us who are really strongly empathic and so connected, is we tend to over-identify with our environments, with what's happening on this planet, with whatever other people are doing, with the collective. And we say, well, we're here to purify or cleanse the collective. This was the idea, this was somehow incepted into our minds. But in truth, we are here to bring the seed of that highest quality of life potential. So even though these situations occur, and on Earth, there is no such structure that is known in the spirit realms, where we each go towards our belonging nature through what we have mastered and attained. We don't all just get to hang out with, people don't just, all souls hang out with the masters unless they have like appointments with them, it's like, no, I'm just kidding. But, in a way, you know what I mean. So I want to read this paragraph, which talks about this, to kind of make us delve more deeply into this complete self-understanding, and that it is okay to feel all these feelings and that none of them are necessarily correct or wrong, that they just simply are, and they're present until we're continuously bringing the light aspect to this, what we call our planet. So this is at the very beginning part, and what I want to say first is something that Spirit has shown me as an expansion or addition of this guidance as I was reading these words, was that, when these cosmic rays and the frequencies are coming in, they're coming into our planet at this time, we have to understand that this is not just some ray like this. It just happens. It's just from some source, an unknown source. We're just like these antennas that are just being bombarded with these rays. Like they're somehow existing outside of us. The union aspect, or the unity perspective that Spirit has been showing me, is that a lot of us here who are also master seeders of life, we have been at higher levels in different realms. We have been the ones who have been creating these energies. We have been creating these rays because we have learned already how to be co-creators with Source, or with Source Prime Energy, or the essence, okay? So we have learned that, and a part of that learning was then putting that out into creation. So it's almost like the vision I got was an aspect of you seeding that and sending out these rays, always happening, of course, at higher levels of consciousness, which expand beyond the group level. We don't do that, usually such big things as individuals. That's the first thing we have to know here, because then the ego pops up and thinks, oh, I am this creator, you know. The creator beings we always talk about in plural for a reason, okay? It's like the master, I call it the light family, in terms of that, like always a group formation and an essence. Okay, so imagine that there's an aspect that they're just sending out, and then these aspects, because of their love for all life in creation, they send aspects of themselves down, and these aspects will then act as receptacles, right, for this energy, for these transmissions. So it's like a two-way process, and yet it's multidimensional, if you know what I mean. So imagine that what we're receiving is not something external coming at us or bombarding us. These energies, these cosmic waves, these frequencies are of our own origin, because whatever we co-create with Source, we can only co-create through our essence, which means it is an extension of our essence, just like we are all as beings of light extensions of the one prime creator, one Source. Okay, so beings of light, we work with energy. We're not energy beings, but we work with the aspect that we call different energy manifestations. So as we go through the different initiatives and different trainings, and I explain this training for volunteer souls in my mini audiobook called Cosmic Training for Volunteer Souls, that's available on my page called My Books, that's the section. And all the different things that are higher principles of creation share through the beings of light I call the Elohim family, which are the prime creators, you know, and they're deeply associated with this universe and the completion of this universe. So this book actually begins with, you know, very simple words. Let me see. Preface, we're not going to do that, but the very simple words were, we have a long history. As the collective of Pleiadians, our ancestors came from another universe that had achieved completion, a universe. You are simply working on a planet coming to completion, and we are here to help you with that task. This completion or transformation has been heralded for eons by many. It is an important time. What happens on Earth now will affect the entire universe. So mark these very important words, right? And if you imagine this happening like on Earth, but also at greater scales. And because of these greater scales, we are here. When we look at the perspective of Earth, and sometimes even the destruction of the environment, pollution, degradation, the splitting of the human, you know, human ways, different races, cultures, all of that, that's just continuation of that, which was the primary initiative, to split the humans apart, to create languages, different cultures, all of that, so they would experience themselves through a word of polarized lens, through separation. And the experience was, as you know, it relates to not the primary designers of life here, but those who came later, that we knew as the gods or Sumerian gods, and those that were different owners who had different agendas and plans. So instead of those who fed on through their emotional creation, through love, they fed inwardly through fear. Okay, so here it is described as they began to figure out that this is how Prime Creator nourished itself. Prime Creator sends out others to create an electromagnetic frequency of consciousness as a food source for itself. So extensions go out, they create, there's a new reverberation, there's a new dynamics playing out. And because of the new dynamics that's always being created, creation continuously expands, and all that comes back into Source. You know, like Source says, I think it's even in the Bible, although I never read it, it's like you go out and create and bring all those creations back to me. That's what is the initiative of creation here and in this universe. So these beings, these new planners, had their own agendas, right? They said, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it through control and fear and all of that. And it's all in my videos already. We're not going to go into that today because we're talking about why we are here, those of us of the light, okay? So they came around 300,000 years ago, and they're spoken of, as you know, in the Bible. And the main thing is that they've changed or rearranged the human DNA, that the band frequency of that DNA could be, you know, they could feed them and keep them in power through that, you know, minimization or entrapment of the human DNA, making it only two-stranded double helix DNA. We already know this story. It's everywhere in the cosmos. It's in online. It's in our remembrance, and we're rising back up to this cultivation of what is the higher plan. And this is what we're talking about today. Why are we here? Because we often say, well, if things are just going kaput, You know, we're not needed here. We can just all leave our bodies and just go and whatever. But when you look at it from the deeper perspective, you always know that wherever you are here for a reason. And if you are a member of the family of light, that reason is much bigger than the human mind can comprehend. So they've done anything that was unnecessary for survival was put out of the DNA, and anything that would keep you informed was unplugged, leaving you with only a double helix that would lock you into controllable, operable frequencies. And this is when the part starts to kick in. Why are we here? And this is where I start to read this text. And I'm sure if those of you who've read this maybe years ago, maybe you're going to want to go back, because remember, each time your awareness is expanded, you're going to see things a different way. You're going to perhaps get new codes of it or new triggering, because books are triggers. Like the Pleiadians say here in the beginning, you know, don't take our answers or information as final, super expand upon it. And this is how I read books. I kind of take them as triggers, and then I just see this whole bigger picture just coming, you know, it's just revealing through the third eye. So a frequency fence, something like an electrical fence, was put around the planet to control how much the frequencies of humans could be modulated and changed. As the story goes, this frequency fence made it very difficult for the frequencies of light information to penetrate. When light frequencies were able, or if they were somehow by random coincidence able to penetrate, right, the control fence, there was no light to receive them. So you see, you can have light, but if there's no recipient, there is no charge. There is no, like, this is the infinity symbol truth of creation. There, if there's a giving, there must be a receiving. If there's a graceful orchestration of light, there needs, you know, this divine dispensation of light, there also needs to be willingness. There needs to be an opening of free will and expanding it to greater levels of what we know as will. So the human's DNA was unplugged. The light encoded filaments were no longer organized. So the creative cosmic rays that brought light did not have anything to plug into and hold into. What part do you play in the story? And I mean you. Okay, me, you, all of us. So why are we here? You are members of the family of light. The mere fact that you're reading this book, and we are together, shows that you are a family of light. For some of you, this is just like a dream. We are reminding you of what you know inside yourselves. We have come onto this planet to trigger your memory banks, to inspire the human race through the band of light so that you will begin to remember who you are, to create your own reality, and to alter the frequency on the planet and claim rightful ownership of yourselves on this territory. We as Pleiadians come back through time into what would perhaps be called our past, in the vestige of representatives of light. So that's basically all of us. We come back in order to share a frequency with you, a frequency that each one of you has agreed to carry on this planet in order to change the DNA of the rearranged human race. This is a big story. It could make headlines, you know. I like this sentence. This is when it reminds you of it's actually a big thing. It's not like every day you're just treading this reality and wanting to go home or somewhere back. I don't know where the back is, because we're relating it to a lot of the memory, how it used to be, and we don't know yet what's coming. So we're feeling like we're kind of trapped in between. But this is something they're showing you we must transcend now. This feeling of being entrapped and victimized by what's happening now, because we're powerless, but we're not powerless. It's a different energy being powerless and being neutral bystanders and observers, because we cannot interfere. We can only do the work of transmission, because we're not karmically bound to, basically as volunteer souls, we're not bound to this planet in ways that souls that were learning through this creation principle and template on earth were. Okay, so listen now carefully. The original planners are not about to lose the territory. Do you think they're going to give up so easily? The original planners began to call on the family of light to go in and infiltrate the project, to incarnate one by one and bring the light as information via creative cosmic rays. Do you see? And I have also another MP3 mini audiobook about rays of creation, which also super expands upon what ray you're working on. What are these rays? What is the ray of your soul embodiment? What are the different rays and more extended multidimensional rays? So you can check that out as well. So these creative cosmic rays into the place where it was lost. The family of light began its work here, coming into a system that was devoid of light and devoid of information. By mutating the laws of humanity, these creative cosmic rays began to pierce people's bodies, individual by individual, then group by group. In very small amounts throughout the eons were these frequencies of information brought onto this planet. At times, great battles were fought to keep out the light or information that was always looking to be expressed. The original planners knew that, cosmically speaking, this was a lesson for them in allowing, in understanding the creator gods who took their projects, so those that took over, and those that we now call the dark ones, because the meaning of the word dark is that the information is hidden. It's not available and presented to all in sovereignty and divine equality. So the original planners set out to insert their own version of a plan to coincide with a time when the frequency of Earth would be altered, a time when the owners would perish if they could not change their own frequency. Emotions are a source of food. There are those whose food source is love, and the original planners intend to alter the frequency of Earth to that of love. The current owner's food source of fear, anxiety, chaos, hunger, and despondency must be removed. And guess who is removing this food source? You are. You are. As members of the family of light, you are renegades. You are system busters, here to conquer your own fears and to show the rest of the planet that there is no reason to fear anything. You love to go in and cause trouble. You're famous, you're a branch of the family of light. You're famous for going into systems of reality and altering the frequency, thus bringing information. It is not your task as members of the family of light to proselytize. Proselytize. I don't know the word, by the way. It's new to me, as many new things are here on the planet, like languages and stuff. You simply go into systems and act as receptacles, right? You receive the creative cosmic rays into your bodies, the bodies that you occupy as humans, the bodies that we also co-created at the higher level of the self. Get that, okay? You are in disguise as humans, and you allow a process to take place. And this is where, when I read this, I always cry. I always cry. You know, I'm reading it to you now, so thankfully I'm not. But when I'm alone and I tune into the frequency of the telepathic transmission they're giving, because remember, when you read each book, you're not just reading the information that was written, I don't know, in 88 or 89 or 92, whatever. It's basically renewed. So when you're tuning into the frequency that's being like compounded, it's being held together in this book, it's also expanding. So the book is a living library just as well. So something calls you and you say, well, that's old stuff, you know, we have to read new books now. To be honest, I really don't resonate so much with the new books or the new material, because a lot of people are now writing them and everyone's now an author, and not everyone is, you know, bringing through really, really pure frequency, and a lot of them are just sharing their own opinions and journeys and life stories, which is perfect. But we are here as volunteer souls. We need to get down to the basics and what is truly aligned with us in this higher process and this higher vision. So when you're reading something like this, you're actually reading it with the awareness of what has shifted already. So what I was shown when I tapped into this book again was that it's different this time, and a lot of the things that were initiated or they talked about that time frame are now, because they mentioned a 20 to 30 year time framework, are now feeling like this is happening now at this time. And I know the timeline was 2012, but 2012 was like the completion point in terms of, you know, spiritual work being done. Then we have to bring it all to the physical, and that takes like a full rewrite, a full transcription, which is not like, you know, you write a book here first, right? Then from this process here, when you envision it and you have it, until you really write it in the physical form, there's like a passageway, right? It doesn't happen overnight. So this is, again, same thing, this process. So, okay, this part, you are coded, and as your memory begins to rise, you will respond to the plan with which you came here to participate, to alter the frequencies. You will begin to hold, keep, and maintain a certain frequency, and then to live it. And when they say live it, I talk about soul embodiment, the soul that's constantly enhancing itself. It's being enhanced by this experience. So the soul which incarnated in the body in the initial point when you were like 0 years old or 9 months old, it's not the same essence anymore in terms of what's in your body, what you're containing now, and the rewrites that took place. And even just the experience of being on Earth now, we planned it. We said, wow, that sounds perfect, makes sense. We're really going to do it. And there was so much persistency there, although some maybe didn't agree and said, this is never going to work. This is too big of a project. But those that were just a part of it said, well, we're never going to know if we don't try, right? So that's the thing. That's how creation works. It's not like it's a sacrifice. As humans, we might view it like this, but it's an act of love. And you can never fail, because what we feel as failure, or it didn't happen the way we've intended, or this highest, this highest outcome that could come out, was maybe one option or one probability. One of them maybe the lowest outcome, or there's many, many multiples in between. But love goes out, love travels through that aspect of light, because love and light are one. They're companions. They're a divine marriage always. It's synchronicity of that creation truth. Okay, so when we attune to that, without having an agenda or how our mission is supposed to go and what we're supposed to achieve, we drop that seriousness. And this is when we can truly live as freed, liberated. You don't see it, but in the back of this jacket I just got for myself, I just got it because it says liberté, and it means liberty, like liberation. And that's my white flame thing. It's my main essence. It's my main purpose to liberate that old, the structured, and to really become beings who operate only on life force, whose all of creations are through life force mastery. That's kind of like my main thing, although I have many different aspects, and you are as well, because we're not like fixed into what we need to do. Because I was thinking today, I was a hermit for so many years. I lived here in these Alps, like all alone, no one there. I've chosen a life of the lesser comfort, of the path less traveled. And it gave me so much. I was able to master myself the way I couldn't do it before. And now it feels like it's coming into a completion, and therefore it's also coming to a halt, and certain things are kind of like moving away. But there's, in this death process, there's new aspects within me that weren't kind of like on the main stage before. They didn't get to play as much as the hermit, because he was kind of like the boss at that time, if I can put it in simple terms. These aspects now want to come out and rise. And this is a part of being multidimensional and moving with our mission with kind of like this grace and ease and flow, which is trusting the life force, trusting why at a certain period of life you are at this level of what you're doing, and why you're then mastering or refining this, and what you're doing next, and just trusting these impulses, because in truth they're not impulses. They are language of soul speaking through us as the soul is being enhanced simultaneously through our earthly experience. So something we might set out to plan out, and it's kind of like destined, it doesn't always unfold the way we expected, because we have already altered the experience in the meantime. So that's the part, it's humans we don't get. I had this plan. I'm going to be here. I'm going to stay in the Alps. To be honest, I don't feel it anymore the way I used to before, because certain things and elements have changed. I've put in the code. I felt like I've done it. I've completed. I don't need to do it anymore, because it was kind of like, I feel it was set out to a greater timeline, but I've already did it. I did the work. I was kind of like a super, super good girl. And because of that, things are going to change. I'm going to do different things. And it's so much in the baby stages, it's not even meant to be shared with anyone. I'm just giving you it as an example of how this multidimensional framework works, instead of linear, instead of I have this mission from here to this and I need to complete it. It's a spiral. And there is no definitive time. It's like an ecliptic, we say around our planet, there's what we call the ecliptic plane. Imagine time being like, like in this formation. So from a different standpoint, you would see it differently, because you're not standing in a line. Okay, so the things we've set up to do or set out to do, they're not continuing the way maybe we thought from the initiative point where we started this journey. So this is kind of like when you really understand multidimensionality, you become free of all the concepts of I'm here to do this and that's my mission, period. Because this keeps you closed, this keeps you in the box, and you can't move with the liberated soul, which says, now it's time to go this way, because this was like this and that. And it's like a giant calculator machine that's always self-calculating, and you're just moving. You're just the physical stressor of life that says, okay, yes, going here, okay, yes, but the directive is coming from the within, and these feelings and inner knowings that are being shared through these impulses that are actually intuitive nudges. Okay. So Identity as frequency is the sum total of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies broadcast as electronic pulsation. So that's why I say embodied, which means from the crown to the root. And I always love that because the kind of like this beautiful fabric I do my yoga on when I do it outside. I do this tantric yoga is both colors. It's violet and red. And I always say, oh, wait a minute. It's like I didn't get it before, but I see it. It's violet. It's from the crown to the red, to the root. It's like this is it. When you're really embodied, it's always is this flow between, okay, and it's higher levels, of course, but in the physical body, from the crown to the root is what's important. So as you live this frequency and that which is embodied, you affect everyone, every place you go. So you see, sometimes if there is like a mission has completed and there's no more, like you've drank all the nectar like a bee does on a flower, you move on to the next flower life, right? For animals it's very simple, but we somehow complicate because we're so attached to things, and we have our stuff and we have our baggage, and we don't want to go with the flow, and we say, well, but that was really my identity, this is what I really identify with. And when it's truly an enlightened identity, it's only temporary. It's only when it serves you and you serve through it. You serve life through that archetype, actually. It's not an identity. But then you can always shift. That's the primary focus of all galactic beings who are super advanced. We don't stay with one archetype. We know that in one lifetime, we might embody so many of these archetypes. And people might say, well, I'm a guardian, and I'm just a guardian. People would say, well, I'm this and that. Well, there's an aspect of you at this moment you're really feeling. And guardians are usually placed in certain locations or places. And then if you just identify with it and something tells you to move or go somewhere else, and you say, no, I can't because I'm a guardian, I stay here. You see, it's like you're not understanding the greater nature of your galactic being. So if you're interested in expanding upon that and knowing how to be of service galactically, not in a linear 3D fashion, there's also a course I have on galactic human embodiment. Okay, so that is what you're doing now. There are many who already understand their assignment, and there are those whose memories are just beginning to rise. And also there's an unlisted video, which I call the Mission of Volunteer Soul. So check that out if you haven't already, okay? It's on my webpage, okay? So the plan to change the frequency modulation affecting the human species entails the rebundling of your DNA and of the light-encoded filaments. The plan is gigantic at this time. Earth is assisting in its own way the evolution of the universe. Earth is where things are happening. It's getting down. It is the hot spot. Ooh, the place to be. It is where the plan begins to blossom, and what happens on Earth is going to affect many, many worlds. So I was seeing this because, what I envisioned here for this place didn't come true, okay? And Spirit said, yes, for now. Seeds take time. And when I was thinking about that, I was also shown how in many, many lifetimes, these beings of the family of light who are incarnating maybe on Earth several times, or many, many multiple times, they were placing all these seeds into different timelines so that each timeline could fulfill itself. And this greater understanding of what the eras mean, the eras of precession, what these eras mean, and how each timeline is initiated and one needs to fulfill until the end. So that's all described in my illumined union. It's like a gateway. It's called Avatars of Illumined Union Gateway, and it's on my beloved tab on my page, Serapina Light. It's super amazing. And it talks also about this perspective from Yeshua Magdalene story and their mission as Avatars of Illumined Union at that time of the Piscean age, and that what we're moving now into the Aquarian age, into this precipice we're finding ourselves at, and what we're going through at this age of integration. So it's all there, and it's a long one, but it's truly super important and deeply valuable from the illumined perspective and for the illumined unions that are here to occur. So the point being here, as so much that was seeded is now ready to be lived. As human beings, we were seeing, we gave so much to the seeding process that a part of us feels like, but when will I ever get to live it? It's almost like You're piling up beautiful clothes in your wardrobe, right? You know, I love beautiful things of art, including wardrobe. You know, it was always a part of me. I see physical not as separate from spirit. It's the physical that matches the divinity of creation, and that's artistic and beautiful and always expanding. So the thing is, you're always just harboring, right? And you kind of like nesting it, but you never get the chance to wear it or go out and wear the dress, you see? So it's a different experience to have clothes in the closet and look at them and you're like, you know, you're seating them, you're kind of bringing them. It's an experience, you know, you can still look at them and feel the beauty, but it's a different experience to go out and actually wear a dress. You're going on a midnight walk or a stroll down the lake, or I don't know, a nice Riviera, something like that. I don't know. It's just these analogies I'm getting now as, you know, analogies of life. That the seeding process is one thing and it's truly important, but what's also important is to embody the living expression of this. What, like they said, you might be harnessing your vibration all this time, but at a certain point you also want to fully live it. All this self-investment work. Why are we here now? Not just to do the seeding. The seeding is one aspect of who we are, but it's not all of it. You see, we're the sum of all parts, the sum total of all parts. So, okay. There are many who already understand their assignment, and there are those whose memories are just beginning to rise. That's what we said. So the plan to change the frequency modulation affecting the human species entails the rebundling. We also said that. And the hotspot. Sorry, I'm reading it again because I got so much in my own dialogue. Okay, moving on to what we haven't read yet. As members of the family of light, you agreed to come to Earth many times, and several beings did. So in many guises and in many different time frames, to learn the ropes, to figure out the character, and to become trained. So the training part is not just the earth experience, the training is in spirit and here. So the logos and the experience as one. Okay, you can get that in the Cosmic Mastery for Volunteer Souls. So you needed to experience Earth and to prepare yourself for the time when the frequency alteration would begin to occur, and you would all incarnate in large numbers to bring the plan into action. And this is now. The family of light everywhere is beginning to unite. You must all focus on what you have in common, not what you do not have in common. Okay, so as members of the family of light, you bring information to the planet neutrally to stimulate your own growth. You need to do this, for your own growth affects the growth of the planet. And this is the part where we say, oh, it is enough. Okay, check. Your DNA will evolve from 2 helixes to 12. These 12 helixes correspond to energy centers or chakras inside and outside of your body. Millions of you on the planet at this time are on assignment, and you have agreed to carry the frequency to accomplish this. Handfuls of you are becoming impeccable, and these handfuls are affecting the others, the pioneers, I would say. So soon you will begin to have great clarity as to who you are and what your assignment is. But this is important here, okay? There will be lots of things happening on the planet as they describe, and there will be much chaos and confusion, but as members of the family of light, you can simply observe this, and this is what we all are mastering, to not get too affected, to not identify with the conditions, to know, always think about, okay, the seed and my experience, what's my experience in it, what have I seeded? You have the right to live this, what we call heaven on earth frequency, which you are seeding, because that actually implants the physical experience of that in the new grid system. You're not complying with the, okay, people are suffering, I have to do it too because I'm a part of this collective. No, it's exactly the opposite. So you can simply observe this, knowing that chaos and confusion must come to break down the system so that it can be rebuilt again with light. As members of the family of light, you can understand that there is an evolutionary process taking place, and that those who can handle the changing frequencies by all means will evolve. Earth is an exciting place to be at this time. It is a good plan, is it not? I really advise you get this book again. It's totally now, you know. Everything is of the now when you're called to it. And when you're superimposing upon it, like super expanding upon it. So it's being fueled through your own light language, through your own understanding at this time, what is specifically encoded and needed for you to experience, to know, and to integrate. Okay, beautiful process, much being shared. I want to now give you those last few updates because then I'm going on July's retreat. You know, I'm having a little bit of the summer vacation. I really need it. This was a very, very tough, challenging year for me. Started last year though, but this year has been intense. I have a few updates for you. Like I said before, during the summer, I will be meditating upon and really tuning into what are the changes I can implement in my work, because what they show me is I need to shift. That's why a lot of the things in my life are just dying. And they said, because I've now completed the initiation part of the journey, which is the initiation from, like first stages of the awakening and the awakening human and who am I. And this whole journey of what I've, developed through my work that's shared freely, like it's almost 900 videos now, I think. It's so much. It's so a lot. It's a lot. It's been like 8 years of this work for me, truly. And they have actually shared with me, my family of light, that I have to move on now because I've completed the mastery courses, I've completed the galactic courses, multidimensional courses, all that knowledge is now out. So it's time to expand how we work in the world through frequency. This is what they said. It's then to live it, to live this frequency, because we've invested so much in this frequency. It's time now to somehow, what's like, okay, you've invested in this, now what are we going to do about it? So to rewrite the code of what it means to be a divine human, to the way we live, it's in tiny things, like even like the most mundane example I can give you, but it's an important one because it shows how all aspects of us must be expressed. Like I really enjoyed the aspect here where I lived with nature and mountains. It's just gorgeous. As you know, I've had so many beautiful retreats and I've seeded the light, and they showed me needed to be here because of the reasons I don't understand on the human levels, but it had to be here. And I will never know the whole plan when I'm human embodiment, and I don't need to. That's the part they say they don't need to. Just go with it. Just trust it. We don't need to know all the details to trust why we're here. This is a constant for us, okay? It's like an inner battle we sometimes might have. We don't need to know all the details because maybe that somehow would mess up our experience. It would just be too large. We get too, again, hopeful and too invested in it because we're also meant to live, not just to be so invested in the process. I know because myself, I've gotten so serious with the way things are sometimes on earth, and it got me to be too rigid in certain ways. And then I needed to soften. And the way I do that, again, is to tantric life force yoga and dancing. This is how I soften and fully open up so I can trust life, and being here is enough, and being of that higher frequency intelligence and embodiment as a galactic human representative, as a sacred earth guardian. Okay, so because of these changes they've been showing me, we're all going to somehow in each in our own timeline be guided to that. So this is also part of divine union. Divine union is not just coming together with the partner that's your sacred partner. It is, but we have to first invest that within ourselves, how we come into union with every aspect of our life that feels that's really driven through the mission aspect. But the mission is not separate anymore from the human, and I gave you this example, how I used to love being here and being a hermit, and that's what I needed at that time, and that's 5 years now. But I couldn't develop or express other aspects of me, which is, the more lively aspects of me, which is somehow go out. There's nowhere to go here, sometimes wear beautiful dresses or just be like enjoying the expression. Because like I said, for me, beauty is a component of highest creation, because where higher realms, you look at all these beautiful celestial expressions, so beautiful because they all have the element of beauty within them. So as a human, as a divine human, that is an important value for us. It's not just like, oh, inner work, constant inner work, it's like push, push, push. It's the refined qualities that awaken for those of us who've gone into this higher mastery expressions of life. And this is where we are now. A lot of you might kind of, develop this within yourself, this knowing like, oh, I was like this all these years and these aspects were not that expressed, or maybe even suppressed. And maybe now it's time for me to also embody, and the way I live my life, different aspects or qualities, like what is important for me in the now. These are the questions for us to be asking ourselves during the summer. I'm sharing this because this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is why I'm going to be retreating, because my life, my physical life is of service, and it's enough for me just to have my own life also as the highest quality. Because when I first awakened, let me tell you, it was all about how can I serve others, and it was all about that. And the not yet fully developed master within me would somehow, get distorted in this game of always just serving and being there and being needed. But that's not the same as, serving from a higher place, when you yourself become a living embodiment, the vessel, the temple, the sacred chalice. And this is why the guidance has been sharing with me that the Magdalene Yeshua story now needs to continue. And if you want to understand that, what they've seeded, what now wants to come out, it's all in the avatars of Illumined Union Gateway. it's the whole channel message. It's the vision I got, and it's also an activation of light, which helps you to merge these counterparts within you, which helps you to build the template for illumined union, not just a partnership, but an illumined union based partnership. Okay, this was the plan. This is the master plan for beings who are on this timeline, who are of this creation or investment. Family of light for sure. So what they've showed me is this will be my more next chapters, this focus on illumined union, focus on these things. And then eventually one day when I have this figured out, you know, when I can do this and I have my sacred space, which to be honest, I didn't have, you know, I had lots of space outside, which now they're kind of shrinking. But I didn't have, like, you know, the living conditions where I am are not perfect, you know, at this time. So I was focusing on just mastering, and now I'm going to focus more on rebuilding certain things so that eventually I can get to the book parts, you know. It's like kind of like finally doing these things because it's all in alignment with divine time. So because of that, they showed me I am kind of like raising in the value, the way I see myself, the way I understand my work to be. And for years, you know, I had like this open public email and people could just write to me or ask me anything. And it was just exhausting me more and more. And up until the point that, I don't know, somewhere from April or May, I couldn't even open it up anymore. I couldn't get myself to open. And I asked, well, what is this for? Is something wrong with me? They said, no, it's just not aligned with who you are now. It's not important. Because what I have in my videos, what's there in my courses, it's like over 900 videos, and all that people need to do is just press the button and just be guided to what their soul wants for them to know in the moment, instead of constantly through the mind want more. And when I had the email open, to be honest, all that people wanted from me was, give me a little more extra. Tell me this about me. Tell me this about my path. And this is not why masters are here. Us as illumined beings, we're here to hold the frequency and pass on the sacred knowledge and certain rites that are just for the initiative ones, those who want to really know what it means, you know, to be a devotee of spirit and to have this higher path, higher wisdom, higher illumined path. And we did that. I've said the work, but they said I cannot put my energy investment anymore in that. I'm giving you this as an example. If you are somehow on the threshold, at the verge of your own shift, but you're afraid to make the change or the passing because you feel, you know, maybe people will, you know, lose interest in whatever. It's not about that. This is about us really doing the embodiment, the living the light work now. It's no longer just being living libraries in terms of asking other, you know, answering other people's questions. And if there are people who want services, people who want to work with us, it has to be from a shared energy exchange. It has to be from a place of respect, because this is the work that we do, just as everyone else does work, you know? The physical, the spirit are not separate. And the reason why so many beings who call themselves light workers have been suffering is because they still saw like spirit path and the physical expression or monetary support and abundance where we are now. It's challenging, yes, but it still is as it is. And there was a separation. There was like a division held here. So we somehow couldn't manifest this abundance because there was a lack also of self-love and respect here. And what universal abundance truly means, that when you're filled with light, you're full, you can give more. You can't act as just being available for everything and anyone. So to be honest, you know, whenever I opened these emails, there was always just like these weird emails. I don't know if I've gotten one really good email that actually wants to say something and actually it's coming through respect. Very rare. So when I was tuning into that and I meditated, Spirit came and they said, you being a public person has nothing to do with the messages, okay? They said the messages, the work you're passing on is public, is available to all. It's unconditional. Doesn't mean you're public. And people mistake that. People think, now I'm their source. I'm the one they have to come to and just, you know, babble on and tell me their stories, their whole life scenarios. I can't. It's just too much. And I've shared this many years before. But it doesn't help, you know, if you don't have the boundary set there, if you don't have it in place. Even if you say that, people still, they don't listen. As you know, people are where they are. And so what Spirit has shown me, I will no longer be public in that way. The messages will always be public. My resources there. everything. But they've shared with me that everything I do is service, so I have to value it as such. So how you can now connect with me is I have many different degrees of how I can assist you in terms of how open you are and how resourceful you are in that moment. So there's like different levels. So the first level is you can write me in an email. It's not actually an email, but as you know, I have PayPal buttons to, do the energy exchange, and then I do my work of spirit as a spirit guide. And the first level is a question, right? Whatever you have to, you want to exchange or share, and you want my insight. You want spirit, well, not mine, but spirit insight, because I can tune into anything. For me, it's always been like simple. It's just awareness. It's just wisdom that's been training for eons of time. And that's the first level. Then I have, as I've shared before, these ascension layouts, these mini grids in the Merkaba formation. And then there's the readings, and then there's the session. So you have like 4 levels. And all the rest is for your self-study, self-initiation. That's how we do it. That's how mastery is born. We're just triggers here. We're cosmic companions and travelers, and that's all in the courses. So giving up this identity of being public, it's not just what I'm talking about for myself, but we all have to learn the difference in how our minds can often interfere in our true sovereign being, because identity being born of something is not the same as being born of spirit. Like my jacket says, liberté, really liberated, really aligned with what's the core, why you're really here for. And are you offering that in a way that's self-honoring and loving and respectful, so that that love, honor, and respect can flow back through another. So you can check that all out on my personal services page if you're ever called. I'm on a holiday, I'm on a retreat in terms of work, but I'm always there, for support. If you need anything, you know where to find me. And if you want to be a part of the group, if you have anything to share, there's always Instagram. That's where the peeps are at. And I say that because this is the most, I think, personal space that for me I'm able to hold at this time. But this public, what does it mean to be public? It's something that for me feels too dense at this time. And just because my work is public and open and so freely given and unconditional doesn't mean that just anyone can ask me anything without any respect, without any respect for my time, for my love and care, and how much, I already do just by the energy work that I do. And people don't know that because they don't know my life. They don't see me. Like, you don't see other people, right? You're making assumptions about them and where they are, what they do, how they are. So from now on, this will be more like, really more balanced, because I was really off balanced. It kind of always pulled me away from the main work I was here to do, and I felt depleted and I didn't sleep well. So because of that, they've showed me this is the change I must make. I hope it shows some of you the love for the self and respect that's growing within you. Whatever you're offering here as a being of light, whatever your services are, whatever your commitments are to make it even more authentic, this is the time. The main word was we are writing our journeys anew, and we're moving towards really the embodiment of the Illumined Union. It's not just like the spiritual integration of the template of Illumined Union, but it's the actual living embodiment of it. So that's the difference. And if you want, you can read my blog. The latest blog is especially with an emphasis of divine union as well, because these are such times. So towards the end, I have an article there that was written, I think, in 2013, when that was really kind of like ingrained in the template about the beloved and about this path of sacred union and partnership. So just go to there, Diary of an Ascension Pioneer, just type it in. And that's it. I just have so much love for us, for where we are now, for where we're always, for our cosmic family of light, bringers of the dawn, if you're guided. Cool book. It just like really brings you into this peaceful, vertical, horizontal as one alignment and knowing, trusting yourself. And whenever I'm guided to share something, I will, although officially I really need that break, as much as I'm sure a lot of you really do, because it was an intense first half of the year. From my deepest love of my heart, full commitment, devotion to a more integrated path, a more well-being. I'm always going to be on this yogic path. It's not about how we look. It's the inner path. Part of me, wherever I live or I am, it's always going to be the hermit. It's my main number, even in life number. And that's it. I just really hope you will all feel into these messages through your own sacred heart. And I have nothing else to give but love. It's always there. I love you so much. Take care. I'll see you soon in the indefinite timelines of our beautiful ascension process. Take care.